Are you pregnant and alone? You have options. The Sanctuary of Hope offers expectant mothers ages 12 to 22 a place to live, medical care, counseling, continued education, and options to raise your baby in a loving environment or help you with adoption. We want to help provide you and your baby with a bright future. Call us or email us today and let's walk through this together. 210-499-1554 or sohcares.org. All inquiries are confidential.
You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. I'm your host, Shamaya Reed, and this is another great day in San Antonio on Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. The Answer. We have a legend in the building today on the 12th floor, looking out, seeing the planes take off and land. We have the one and only Sonny Melendrez. He is in the building. He is going to give us a great life story and some great wisdom. So no further ado, just want to welcome Mr. Sonny Melendrez to the show. How you doing today, sir?
Thank you, Shamaya. You read that just perfectly the way I wrote it. So thank you very much.
You know, you have been in the broadcast game for a long time. You have been in the media game for a long time. You have been able to grace the stage of TED Talks. You speak to people, you lift people up, you inspire people, but you obviously have a great career. So tell the audience a little bit about you, man.
Well, you say a long time. I always say I'm almost halfway there because I think everything has to do with your attitude. Uh-huh. I am just as excited about being on the radio, being behind a microphone today as I was when I was 17 years old, when I walked into San Antonio College to take my broadcast classes there. And I truly believe that radio is the most magical of all mediums. Right now we're on Facebook, and who would have known that our phones would have been a radio station, a television station, a newspaper, right, and who knows what else in the future. But really, when it comes down to it, it's all about human-to-human connection, mm-hmm, and content and experiencing each other's feelings. And it connects the world, I think, a little bit more, sometimes in a bad way, but mostly in a good way. And it all depends on what your attitude is. But when I started out, it was at San Antonio College. I had an incredible teacher named Jean Longwith. In fact, they now have a building named after her that has all of the equipment, state of the art, in that equipment, and young broadcasters can go there and do things that I wasn't able to do. We used to broadcast to the what they call the Lofton Center. And it was just like maybe 10, 15 listeners at a time. Oh, wow. But it didn't matter. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter. And I will tell you also this. If you're interested in radio, anyone listening right now, especially with podcasting, now you can do things that you couldn't do before. My version of podcasting, before I even went to college, before I went to high school, mm-hmm, was in my dad's barbershop. Let me explain. I didn't want to wait to be on the radio. I would listen to KTSA and KONO here in San Antonio, and it'd be under my pillow at night. I just devoured radio, and I wanted to be on the radio. I saw myself. I would always say, I'm going to be on KTSA. I'm going to be on KTSA. And so I didn't want to wait to grow up to maybe find out how to get on the radio. So I had a little recorder, and I would record these little shows, and I would get a record player. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Yeah. and I would play the songs that they had on the radio, and I would literally make these little shows. And then, because we lived inside my dad's barbershop, we moved in there when I was about 8 years old so that my parents could afford to send me to grade school and also to high school, to a Catholic high school and Catholic grade school. And so my dad had a barbershop at the corner of Nolan and Pine. In fact, the building is still there, a little strip center. Oh, wow. And it wasn't even a full address. Half of it was a print shop, and the other half was a barbershop. And my dad partitioned half of the barbershop, and that's where we lived. My brother, my mom, and dad. And, in fact, our address was 908.5 Nolan Street, Shemaiah.
That's good right there.
But and we didn't have a phone. The only phone we had was the pay phone inside the barbershop. And it was right next to the shoe shine stand. I was the shoe shine boy on the weekends and during the summer. And my dad every night would give me 3 dimes, and I would stumble through the chairs in the dark of the barbershop, sit up on the shoe shine stand, and then put in a dime at a time and call one of my friends and play these little shows that I made.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. I was podcasting one listener at a time.
Right.
For all I know, they put the phone down and came back 5 minutes later and say, "Oh yeah, that was great. I got to go." But what that did, and here's what's important to you, is that it gave me experience. You see, your mind doesn't know that you're getting paid for something, doesn't know that you have 1 million listeners. All it knows is that you've done it before, and you're better at it each time you do it. So by the time I did go to San Antonio College, and then eventually UTEP in El Paso, and then I got a job offer, got my first radio show job in El Paso. And get this, I was working on weekends from 5 a.m. to midnight. From 5 a.m. till noon. I would turn the station on because it was on Sundays. It was off for maintenance, and I was getting paid $1.50 an hour.
Wow!
And I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I thought, how can I possibly be making money having this much fun? And I would look at the clock, and I would say to myself, "Oh, good, I still have 4 hours. Oh, good, I still have 3 hours. Oh, good, I still have an hour." And that's the way I look at the clock now. In fact, right now, I asked you before we started how long we'd have.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't want to miss out on the fun. That's what this is for me. And now that I'm a speaker, it's on stage, and I speak for an hour, 2 hours at a time, and I'm constantly thinking I still have so much time left, and in a positive way. But what happened was, eventually, I made a name for myself in El Paso as a program director, and then got a call from a station in San Antonio to be their program director and on the air, and that station was KTSA.
Man, did I tell y'all, we're talking to Sonny Melendrez, a legend in his own right. When it comes to media, when it comes to radio, when it comes to influence, because you touched on that, about speaking to the listener. That one-on-one,
right.
Hearing the voice,
right.
They're hearing you talk, and you're guiding them throughout the show. You make this whole interview experience fun. I'm all pumped up and excited. How did you get that passion? How did it start? Like, what made that flame come to reality, man? You know,
my TEDx talk is titled Intentional Enthusiasm. And that's what I think I've always had. In fact, my wife is the opposite. She wakes up, and it takes her a good 3 hours to get started and to be in a good mood. And I'm always like, from the second Sonny. I'm up, I'm ready to go, and I'm happy about what's going to happen today, regardless of whether there's plans or not. Or it's just a matter of making things happen. But I think that the enthusiasm for this medium was just that. It was my visualization, and that's what I talk about. There's three parts to intentional enthusiasm. One of them is believing in yourself. Yeah. The second is visualizing exactly what it is you want, and the third, and probably the most important, is gratitude. Being grateful along the way. You know, how many people get to do what they love in the city where they grew up? Many of us have to leave. In fact, I did. I went to Los Angeles for my career, but came back, and God has these plans for you that if you realize that you're the co-pilot, everything's going to be okay. But a lot of times things work out much better than you thought they would.
And it's amazing that you mentioned faith, because that's what the show I Am Refocused Radio is about. Is every day is an opportunity for you to focus on your goals, focus on your plans, but you have to take action. And when life happens to you, it happens to every one of us.
Right.
When storms come, hard times come, you have a choice. You either turn towards God or you turn towards the world. Like, you can only choose one or the other. You can't have both.
Right.
So for you in your career, as you're building your influence, as you're building yourself, what were some of the challenges that you had to face? Because this wasn't like something that you just like, it was so easy and it happened for you.
It wasn't. I think, Shemaiah, the real key is to enjoy where you are, what you're doing with what you have. So many people, they hang their happiness hat on the, someday, as soon as I get this, or if I could just do this, then I'd be happy. And that's not the way happiness works. Happiness is a byproduct of your attitude and your actions. And so consequently, if you're enjoying the moment right now, because we only have now, think about it. We don't have the future.
Nope.
We will always have only now. We don't even have the past. Nothing. It's always now.
That's good.
And if you understand that, all of a sudden you say, oh my gosh. And there's a book, it's called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And it is all about focusing on the moment. And he, and I believe this, says that there's another power that comes out of that. It magnifies the things you think about and also the kindness that you offer others along the way.
And you're just now tuning in. You're listening to I Am Refocused Radio here on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. Your host, Shemaiah Reed, talking to the legendary Sonny Melendrez. And you can go to sonnymelendrez.com, right? You can. If they want to find out more information about you. But back to your story. When you had the microphone in front of you, from the first show, I mean, really, you had a show before you had a show. You were doing the recorded tape.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite topics when you're doing your show? What was some of the things that you like to discuss when you're on radio?
Well, I don't really look at it as topics as much as fun. Mm-hmm. Here's the way I approach radio. If you came over to my house and we're sitting in the living room and I've got all kinds of things that I'm playing for you and I don't want you to leave. And I'll say, well, you got to hear this. Oh, wait, I want to show you something. I just don't want you to leave. Yeah. So that's the way I've always approached radio, is that I've got all these things that I'm bringing to this table and this show, and I've had so many listeners, and this is the highest compliment you can have, tell me that they would sit in the parking lot of their workplace or of wherever they're going, because they didn't want to miss out on what was coming up next on the show or what I was in the middle of. Mm-hmm. It's always been about fun and having a good time, and also never at the expense of someone else. Mm-hmm. So many times it's easy to make fun of somebody or to do something, but if you're going to hurt their feelings, to me, that's not what radio is. That's not what good radio is.
And once again, I want to tie it back to the purpose that we were talking about earlier, because you obviously found your passion at a young age. Those listening right now, say someone is stuck on the fence. They think they know, but they also are negative about life and they feel like things happen to them and life wasn't fair. What words of wisdom you give to someone who's listening to the show right now who is trying to find a purpose but they're struggling?
Great question, because there are people who are 50, 60, 70 years old and still don't know what they want to do when they grow up. And I think that what's more important than anything else is to put yourself out there and get out of your comfort zone. I read a definition of fear is FEAR. It's I forget what it is. Look it up. You'll see what it is.
It's a little homework assignment.
It's all about getting out of that comfort zone and doing things that you wouldn't normally do. And if you do something every day that is maybe if you're an introvert or you're shy, you don't talk to somebody, anything, you'd be surprised not only where your confidence level goes, but also where you are in front of people, because I truly believe this. I believe that God puts these people in your path once you have an idea of something that you like, what you do. You know, I do a lot of personal coaching, and one of the things I do in our first session is I say, okay, it is 1 year from now, and I write down the date. I said, and we are celebrating. We're at your favorite restaurant, and we're raising a glass, and we're celebrating your grand success. What happened? And then they imagine what would have happened or what could have happened. And when they tell me that, then I say, okay, let's work backwards. How did you get to that point? And I think that once you have a plan in your head, see, some of us are not born with the ability, and I've always admired people who can do this, and they'll write down all this stuff, and they'll have a plan, they'll have all these different mechanisms in place. I've always had it pretty much as a dream, but as long as that dream is vivid, it's in color, you can see it, you can taste it. And here's a great example. We just celebrated Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. Anyone who's ever been in love, and hopefully it's every single person listening, you remember when that first week happened, when that feeling happened. And for many of us, you might have even thought, I'm going to marry her, or something that's good. You're just walking on air. Everything else is just oblivious. You're just like, you can't, it's all you can think about.
Yeah.
If you can apply that to your future, your passion, to anything else, that's intentional enthusiasm. And when you get to that point, I'm telling you, things start to happen.
Man, that ties perfectly what this show is all about, because it's all about that focus. When you are focused on that one target, because I used to say people, because I've been in that place where you just kind of like roaming. You're just going here and there. You never concrete on your goals and what you want to do in life. But if you're that person that's throwing darts everywhere, but you're not picking a target,
right?
You just have darts everywhere. They're scattered. But if you keep consistently aiming at that one goal.
That's right.
Because for you, it was your passion to talk and to speak and tell stories and create these amazing shows that people were connected to, but they were connected to that passion, that fire behind that voice. It's the same thing for anybody listening who has passion in whether it's the arts, sports, medicine, whatever your passion is in your career. It's the fire. People connect to that fire because they want to be close to that. They want to find their purpose, and what's better, surrounding yourself with the right people who have their mindset on clear.
I agree. And you want to hang out with people who are where it is you want to be, because otherwise you'd never grow. Mm-hmm. And then you have people who, it's like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 is those people who are up there. The other third is people who are where you are. And many times those can be our closest friends because we have so much in common. And then the other third is someone that wants to be where you are. Mm. And you are helping them along the way. I had a young lady call me. Actually, she sent me an email and out of the blue saying, I want to be a speaker and I'd like to talk to you about, how you got to where you are. And we talked for about an hour. And it was so refreshing to see someone, and she's like 18, 19 years old, taking the initiative mm-hmm. of just going and Googling, motivational speaker, and here's my name, and looking at my site, and then calling. Right. I mean, it's there for anyone. We can do that. There's all kinds of excuses we can make about why you can't do this, but not being able to afford something, if you have to go to the library, it doesn't matter. If you have that will, you'll have that way.
And once again, we are talking to Sonny Melendrez right here on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. He listens to I Am Refocused Radio with host Shemai Reed. And I want to dig into that a little bit deeper, because when people listen to talk show hosts, sometimes people get excited and they're like, man, I could never do something like that. Or just another comparison, when people see a famous sports athlete, they're on the come up, maybe they're on the way up in school or whatever, and they're like, man, I can never be that great. I always say on the show sometimes we tend to compare people on their different chapters. One can be on chapter 300,
right,
and we're still on chapter 3.
Well said.
How can we, or how have you in your lifetime, in your career, how have you kept yourself patient during the process?
Well, I think that, when you are, especially if you're an entrepreneur, but I'm an ideapreneur, and when you are literally in that zone, you have to know that it sometimes is very, very lonely. Even your loved ones, even your parents don't see what you see, and that's okay. And they may say things like, well, you know what, son, that's okay, but maybe you should do this, or maybe you should do that. They don't see it, and you have to look past that. And then you'll have the naysayers. You'll have the people who say, well, you can never do that. And I mean, look, I'll give you a perfect example. On the night of the NBA draft, the man we call the little general, AJ, Avery Johnson, played for the Spurs. He didn't make the draft. And they told him, they said, look, you're too short. I think he's 6'9", and he said, you're not going to be able to do it. You need to just kind of hang it up. But that was not what he saw for himself. Yeah. And he came back. Not only did he make it into the NBA, but he ended up with a championship ring. And now he's talking about a motivational speaker, and he's done all kinds of things with college basketball. But again, you can't let go of what you see. And you've got to know that there will be these lonely times when it's just you. Don't stop. Keep doing something. Do everything. I always say, every day before you play, do 3 things that will further your goal. And if you do that, and you could just do it on 5 days a week, that's 3 times 5. That's 15. Every month, you've got X amount. And then over the year, you've planted all these seeds. And by the time a year rolls around, you can say, look at all this work I did. And all of a sudden, you walk into your garden, and there's all these flowers. And you're thinking, where did this all come from? It's all from that work. Plant seeds every day.
It's funny you said that because this morning, this is crazy. This morning, I was thinking about that analogy of planting seeds because, the Bible talks about people having certain talents, and it's up to the person, the individual, how they use the talent.
Right.
And I agree with what you're saying because if you take each and every day just to make that one step on the journey.
Right.
Because a lot of times we want to pause.
Right.
We see distractions, we see excuses, and what we do, we pick them up.
Right.
And then they slow us down. And if we're not careful, it stops us. It stops us from taking that action. It could stop that young lady to take the action to call you and connect with you to get some wisdom and advice on speaking and talking. But a lot of times, if we, like you're saying, we take that step every single day, being consistent. It's just like someone who's exercising. It's just like the greatest of the greatest in any sport you can think of. The greatest of the greatest, the ones who have the biggest records, the one who has the most championships or whatever. It's intentional.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Not by accident.
Every single day they made a choice, and that's the key. You either choose to keep going or you choose to have an excuse.
Every moment you make that choice. It's true, Shemaiah. You're absolutely right. And I will also add one more thing, and that is you always want to not only think positive, but think about how you spend your mind time. If you spend it resenting, if you spend it in anger, if you spend it wishing ill for others, that's poisonous. I mean, why would you do that? You wouldn't put water in your car. You don't have. It's a moment that you don't get back that you could be spending thinking about something positive. I wrote something recently. It says, when you find the good in others, you find it in yourself. And when you see that good in anybody that even people that you may not agree with, we're so polarized right now politically, and we don't need to be. Yeah. Imagine if the Spurs had a coach that half of the Spurs didn't like, and so they were against the coach, but the team was doing what they're doing. They would never win a championship. And that's kind of like what it is with this, we're all Americans, but beyond that, we're all humans.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you who really epitomized the whole idea of kindness, and that was Mr. Rogers, who I got to meet when I was in Los Angeles. And he was just what an incredible, I just interviewed a man named Gavin who literally wrote a book about Mr. Rogers. It's called Kindness and Wonder, Why the World Needs Mr. Rogers more now than ever. And it had to do with what it is he gave the world. And we can do that. You don't have to be in the media to be kind.
Once again, you're listening to 9:30 a.m. The Answer with Yoshimar Reed on I Am Refocused Radio. You can listen to our show's archive on IamRefocusedRadio.com. Once again, we're talking to Mr. Sonny Melendrez. One thing that keeps sticking in my mind is the garden. And there was one person that a wise person told me, in life, there's two dates, the day you're born and then the day you're gone.
Right.
But he said the most important thing is the dash.
Yeah, that's right.
Because whatever you do between those two dates, that is the most important thing. It's
Amen.
The in between.
Amen.
And as people are listening to the show, there's so many highs and calms as far as energy. But when you are telling your life story, what is that one thing you want people to take away when they listen to you, whether it's a TED Talk or if they listen to one of your shows? What is it, that one thing you want people to take away?
Simple. We are all here to help each other. And think about that. All we really have time and ourselves and each other. And so why wouldn't we help each other?
Man. That is what they call a mic drop, because it's hard to come back after that one. That's a very important point, because we can get busy in life to the point where I like what you talk about, helping the person behind you that wants to be in your shoes, like someone who aspires to be a talk show host or a basketball player, NBA player, whatever. It's so important to take that time to stay humble and help people who are still in the process of dreaming their dream. Because it's one thing when you can to have the opportunity to live your dream, right?
Right.
But it's another situation where you can help assist people who are in the process of finding theirs.
And I have to say something, Shemaiah. You are a perfect example of everything we're talking about. I was talking to your mom earlier, and she's so proud of you, as well as your siblings. But I think you epitomize the idea of not only doing something with your life and following that passion. And part of that passion, if not all of it, is radio, and that's what you're doing. Yeah. But if people go to your website and they see all the other things that you do, they realize this guy's the real deal. So I congratulate you on your success.
And once again, I know he gave me some nice little checks and kudos, but I have to say, having Sonny Melendrez on this show is not just an honor. I think it's great that I had the opportunity to get your life story in this episode, because that's what this show is about. I Am Refocused Radio. Like we always say, every single day is an opportunity for you to go after your dream. And we keep saying go after because we want people to take action. We don't want people to listen to the shows and feel good about themselves.
Right.
We seriously want you to find your purpose in life, because I said this before, because we started this show in 2017. And I remember me and my cousins in Michigan, my mom and dad from Michigan. I remember one time at Bible study, for my cousin's mom, she was watching us. We was in the hallway, and she just saw us having fun talking to each other, and she had a serious moment. She just had that look in her eye, and she said, "You know what?" She was basically saying, like, you know, you all have purpose. But what she was saying was powerful. She said, "Don't you know when you wake up every morning, as soon as you open your eyes, all hell shakes? Because when they know you have an opportunity to make a change in this world,
right,
then you still have that opportunity."
Yes.
And as long as you have air in your lungs, whoever's listening to the show, you have that opportunity to be the best of the best that you possibly can be in this world. Because if you don't believe that, no one else will.
That's right. You've got to believe in yourself before you can expect anyone else to believe in you. But you're absolutely right about that. And, you know, I thought you were going to say when you wake up, the devil says, "Oh, great, he's up."
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's probably nervous still too, because
right.
You know, when God gives you a gift, you just digging a lot of good stuff on this show today. I say a lot too. Your life is a blank canvas.
That's right.
And your gift is the paint, but the paintbrush is the action. So you got to do some stuff.
Absolutely. Well said.
To
well
create
said.
your masterpiece. But the one that has the source to all the action, all the paint, is God.
Exactly.
And
you
without
are
him,
the
is nothing.
co-pilot. You're not the pilot. You're the co-pilot. And when you realize that, even in times of trouble, in times of all kinds of things that happen, because that's what life is. If there were no valleys, there'd be no mountains, no highs. But as you wake up each day and go through whatever you're going through, when you realize that he's working on you, and I always say that when you help other people, when you work on them, it gives God a little more time to work on you.
Wow, that's good. That was the tipping point of this show right there. That statement is not just real. I think people, you might want to go back a little bit and make sure you listen to what he just said, because that kind of seals everything of what we've been talking about on this whole show. And if anything, if you can take away anything in the show, is Sonny Melendrez has passion. And sometimes that's what's missing in this world. People who have passion. Can you imagine if you go to a certain store and the person on the other side servicing you, if they had just have that passion, it makes you say, "Wow, I'm gonna come to this store all the time," because
exactly,
they make you feel welcome. They make you feel like you are a human being, approachable.
Sure.
I think that's another thing that's missing. People, not just in San Antonio, if you listen to this in podcasts, you're all around the world, you can change your community by working on yourself. You got to find that purpose, because that purpose is the fire, is the flame. Because without that purpose, you're just another anybody.
You're right, Shemaiah.
So with that, I want to give you the last words to say. What would you like to tell the audience, Sonny Melendrez?
You talked about that person behind the counter and the passion, the enthusiasm that they may have. If you are that person behind the counter, you then are putting money in your passion bank, and that is going to grow. So no matter what you're doing, no matter where you work or where you are, the more you grow that passion, the more you grow that enthusiasm, that intentional enthusiasm, the better it makes you and the happier you'll be. But never forget to help people along the way. They say that the greatest way to really have a true measure of a person and measure them and where it is they are in their life is to notice how they treat someone who can do nothing for them.
Yeah.
It can be a smile. It can be a kind word. It can be a pat on the back. I'm telling you, we have so much to give, and every day there are opportunities to do just that.
Once again, this is Sonny Melendrez, I Am Refocused Radio here on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. And everything we talked about, it always comes to these last words that we say every single week. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it, because we cover everything that you possibly can cover on a radio show. So the last words, like we say every single Sunday, keep God first, stay focused, and peace.
Hi, San Antonio. Need a barber? Visit our good friend Rico Rodriguez, the owner of Rockefeller's Barbershop in San Antonio, Texas, 1733 Babcock Road, and book your appointment today by calling 210-782-5188.